Volkswagen Arteon 2.0 TDI 240 4Motion Elegance 2017 Review. 7. Volkswagen's flagship executive comes up short on the style and verve needed to infiltrate the premium ranks. What is it? You're looking at the new face of the Volkswagen brand. Even more importantly than being a rival for added desirability, executive options such as the Audi A5 Sportback and a replacement for the old Passat-based CC, that is what the Arteon 5-door hatchback represents. Except that Volkswagen calls this a fastback because hatchbacks are, by and large, smaller, cheaper and far more ordinary. Of course they are. Fastback executive cars are special, instantly much more appealing than a saloon with an otherwise mainstream badge might have been. Remember the Rover 800? Where the Arteon leads, at least in styling terms, much of the rest of the Volkswagen passenger car range will follow. Let's wait and see if that's necessarily good news. The Arteon's grille and headlight styling will be particularly influential, Volkswagen says. The way those horizontal grille bars run seamlessly into the headlights is intended to make the front end seem wider and more impactful, helping to give this practical five-seater the visual presence of a sports car. Those curvy rear haunches, blistered wheel arches and sharp body creases are there to achieve the same effect. Likewise, the availability of optional 20-in alloy wheels for those who want them. Naturally, Volkswagen did want them for the cars it used for its press demonstration drives. It's at this point that a diplomatic reviewer would normally reserve judgment on a car's aesthetics and crack directly on with matters less subjective. I'm not going to do that because it would be to ignore what ought to be one of the chief selling points of any car in this part of the executive car market, arguably an even more important one, too, in a Volkswagen starting at something of a disadvantage on brand allure when judged against many of its peers. In the middle, the Arteon is short on visual charisma and distinctiveness to my eyes. It's smart enough, if a bit unimaginative and half-hearted. You can make your own mind up, of course. But having been down this road once before with the Passat CC and seen others follow its lead, I think Volkswagen should have known that it would take more than a plunging roofline and some frameless doors to make this car really stand out. The Arteon is built on the same MQB platform as the current Golf, Passat, Tiguan and Touran, a sentence that says all you need to know about how flexible modern vehicle architectures have become, and how much freedom they now grant designers and engineers. This is certainly no rebodied Passat. Its wheelbase is longer, its axle tracks wider, its roofline lower and its driving position quite different. The Arteon is available with a choice of 3 turbocharged petrol and 3 diesel engines in many global markets, as well as manual or twin-clutch automatic gearboxes and either front or four-wheel drive. However, Volkswagen's UK distributor is yet to decide how widely it'll flesh out the Arteon range, and, presumably, how much the car might be allowed to cannibalize Passat sales. So, for the time being, only the top-of-the-range 276 bhp 2.0-liter TSI petrol and 237 bhp 2.0-liter twin-turbocharged TDI are absolutely confirmed, both with the 7-speed DSG automatic box and four-wheel drive. Prices are also still to be set, but sources suggest that £38,000 will be the likely starting price for the diesel model we're testing here. What's it like? One of the ways the Arteon will justify that price, where the old CC certainly didn't, is the old-fashioned way, with size. This is a relatively long and wide car. It looks big enough to be approaching £40,000 worth, to put it simply. On the inside, it offers a very roomy and accessible boot and more than enough legroom for a couple of larger adults to sit in the back quite comfortably, albeit, predictably, with not as much headroom as a more conventional saloon might. Up front, the seats of our Elegance spec test car were snug and adjustable, and the seating position lower and more enveloping than in a Passat. The Arteon's doors rise much higher at your shoulder than its sister cars, Its roofline stays lower and its glasshouse slimmer, leaving quite a large B-pillar to peer around when you're overtaking and pulling out of oblique junctions. Onboard technology is one of the key prongs of the Arteon's appeal, with Volkswagen's thinking being that younger buyers probably care more about sophisticated safety and infotainment technology than perfect 50 hours 50 minutes weight distribution or some modern pastiche of century-old European luxury. That certainly seems a sensible philosophy, but it's debatable if it's a real selling point for this car. The Arteon gets the same optional glass-fronted 9.2-inch Screen Discover Pro infotainment system as has just been installed in the smaller Golf. And, just as in that car, it seems powerful and feature-rich but much the worse on usability for the loss of Volkswagen's old volume and map zoom knobs and shortcut buttons. The Arteon also has the same active info display digital instrument display as the Golf. We like it, but ultimately not quite as much as one or two other digital instrumentation setups that this kind of cash can buy. There can be few complaints or reservations about the slickness of the Arteon's driving experience. With its mechanical refinement and the consistent obliging lightness of its controls, the car feels every inch the modern Volkswagen. The 2.0-liter diesel engine remains remote and quiet even at moderately high revs, but its considerable torque and responsiveness and the intelligent shift behavior of the gearbox all mean you very seldom need to venture much beyond 3,500 revolutions per minute. The car's ride is laudably quiet on a level surface, too, even on the optional 20-in wheels and low-profile tires. Rather than simply retune the same suspension hardware you'll find on the Passat, Volkswagen has gone shopping for new adaptive dampers and bushings for this car in the knowledge that those 20-in rims would be tricky to integrate without accepting a harsher edge to the ride than it might like. The upshot is that the Arteon offers greater dynamic configurability than any other Volkswagen, its stamping being tunable on a sliding scale from a more compliant setting to a more resolute one when you choose individual mode on the modal controller, instead of being restricted to discrete comfort, normal and sport presets. But, while the greater control over the car's ride is welcome, what it amounts to is debatable. Like most of its stablemates, the Arteon is at its most effective when cocooning you from the world outside with its generally supple ride and isolated steering. Damper upgrade or not, there's an unmistakable thump to the car's ride when those 20-in rims hit sharper lumps and bumps, but it's tolerable. However, move towards a firmer suspension setup in search of the driver engagement the car's positioning promises, and you'll likely be left disappointed. The Arteon's standard progressive variable rate power steering picks up marginally more weight but still feels starved of feel, while the car's ride becomes more choppy and little more intimately or meaningfully connected to the surface of the road. Should I buy one? The Arteon's grip level handling agility